Am I the a-hole for not paying for my niece's college even though I can? I, 45 female, and my husband Jay, 49 male, have 4 children. Ted, 20 male, Susan, 18 female, and Vicky, 9 female, and Charles, 7 male. The older 2 children are biologically my male cousin's kids. Him and his wife unfortunately passed away when the kids were just 2 years and 3 months old. None of the family members were able to or wanted to take in the children at the time. I was the youngest and still in med school then, but my husband was financially stable. He was extremely fond of Ted. Susan had just been born, so he suggested we become legal guardians for the time being, and it was the best decision of my life. Last week, at a family get-together, Susan announced she got a full scholarship to her dream university. My female cousin then pulled me aside to tell me that my other niece was 18 now and had gotten accepted into the same university as Susan. I congratulated her, but then she said I have to transfer Susan's and Ted's, got scholarship as well, college funds to her account to pay for her niece's tuition and living expenses as the university was out of state. I thought she was joking and laughed in her face, but she glared at me and told me that since I was going to pay for Ted and Susan, I have to pay for her daughter as well because both are my nieces. I said Ted and Susan were mine and Jay's children. We formally adopted them. But she said since Ted, Susan, and her daughter are first cousins, she's sibling of my late male cousin, they are the same, and my children don't need it anyways. I was extremely annoyed at this point, and said even so, it was still their money, and for them to do as they please. She left it at that, and I thought it was over. But today, she called me saying she was willing to forgive my appalling behavior if I paid for my niece's tuition and living expenses as an apology gift. I told her she was out of her mind and hung up. After cooling down a bit and thought maybe I should just suck it up and pay it to keep the peace and was talking with my husband about it, and he told me I was not obligated to help and it should be my decision. I finally decided not to. Now family members are calling me an a-hole because I broke my niece's dreams over some grudge. It's not that I hate her, but her behavior towards my children and family has never been the best. And my niece has never tried to reach out or bond with my kids, instead has sometimes belittled them, but that is another story. All relatives know this, so they think that is the reason, and well, that is a part of it. So, am I the a-hole for not paying for my niece's college even though I can? Edited to add, when she called me, she did not ask for my children's funds, as I had made it clear that I wasn't going to give it. She instead wants me to give her money out of our savings. That is why I'm asking. I would never give my children's funds, but maybe I'm the a-hole for not giving money from savings which we still leave enough for retirement. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. They are your children, not your nieces. Blood relations don't matter here, and your cousin suggesting otherwise is vile. She is responsible to come up with a college fund for her kids. As you have realized, it would be punishing them for doing great enough to get scholarships to just give the money you saved for them away. She should ask for your forgiveness, not the other way around. She is out of her mind here. They should be calling your cousin an a-hole over not considering to help out her own daughter. She didn't work hard enough to get a scholarship. And your cousin seems to have tried not to save or be willing to help cover the cost. If they call you, they can help out. Easy as that. Also, if niece has treated your kids badly, she doesn't really have anything to say here. She made her own bed. Not the a-hole. Even if you did want to pay for their college, there's no reason to wire her the money. Niece is an adult now after all. If the money should be going to anyone, it's either to niece or to the college directly. However, you have no obligation to pay at all. Plus, even with full ride scholarships, it's not like the school is going to be giving them money for anything but the necessities. They'd probably still like to have the money so they can have fun and enjoy college. Wow. Just wow. You are clearly not the a-hole, but your cousin is so much the a-hole that I'm astonished that the rest of your family can't see it plain as day. When I started to read this, I saw that you had adopted Ted and Susan. I was nervously expecting that by niece, you meant that you didn't want to pay for Susan's university despite having adopted her, and was all set to say you're the a-hole. Only if you were paying for your own bio kids, mind you. But this? You are obviously a lovely, loving, generous parent, not only to your bio kids, but to Ted and Susan, who you have made clear you see entirely as your children as well, and have provided for in the same manner as if they were born to you. And I won't say that that's beautiful, Although we see too many people in this sub treat adopted or stepkids differently, because what it is really is simply appropriate. But for your cousin sister to shift her parenting and financial responsibilities onto you, despite the fact that her child hasn't lost any parents, is not your reward and be so obnoxious as to simultaneously make an incredibly huge and inappropriate financial demand of you. And to denigrate your relationship with Ted and Susan, your adoptive children, by insisting that they are no different from your other nieces or nephews, is beyond horrifying. This gets said time and again on the sub, but it bears repeating. The fact that you have money does not mean that you owe that money to anyone else, including extended family. Nor does the fact that they want that money. Your niece has her own parents, and she is their responsibility. Ted and Susan are now your children, and have no one else to take responsibility for them. Again, you are not the a-hole, but your sister cousin absolutely is. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for my niece and nephew's college? So I, 28 female, have been married to my husband John, 38 male, for the last 4 years. John comes from a very rich family, whereas I come from a very poor family. From the moment I introduced John to my parents and siblings, 43 female Allie, 38 male Anthony, and 37 male Bill, my sister has made snide comments about how I'm a kept woman, how I looked for a man to take care of me, and how I'm basically a sugar baby. None of that is true. I have a very high-paying job. And honestly, I didn't even know John was rich for the first few months we were dating, because he lives a very laid-back normal life. He told me about his wealth when he asked me to meet his parents because he didn't want me to be caught off guard when meeting them. I got contact with Allie not long after John proposed to me, because she started sending nudes to John, telling him to leave me for her, etc. There was a big fight when he turned her down. Then she called him a cradle robber and some other less than pleasant things. This was 4 years ago. Fast forward to 2 weeks ago when I got a call from my mom asking me to come to dinner at her house. I thought nothing of it, and John and I went. Imagine my surprise when my sister and her kids, 18 male and 18 female, showed not long after. John and I wanted to leave then and there, but my mom begged us to stay and listen, so we did. Apparently, Anthony and Bill had let it slip that I had helped them out with paying tuition for my 2 nephews and niece. Because of this, Allie asked me if I was willing to help her pay for her kids too. When she asked me this, I was stunned because I know that the twins' late father had left enough money for them to attend college. When I asked her about that money, she said she had to spend half of it to pay bills the last 2 years because the pandemic hit them hard when she lost her job. I told her this was sad, but I'm not helping her pay for their tuition because 1, we haven't spoken in 4 years, 2, she has been nasty to me my entire life, and 3, she hasn't even apologized for what she did to me. She said all that was in the past, and that I should just move on. This made me even angrier, and I just left without saying anything else to her. My mom has been calling me every day since, asking me to just give them the money because I can't afford it. Anthony and Bill apologized for telling her what I did for them, and said they will support any decision I make. My sister posted online about how I was being a greedy aunt who refuses to help her less wealthy family, and I have been getting some hate from people. Some of Allie's friends even called to tell me I was being petty. My husband, even though he is angry and embarrassed by the situation, said he will support me no matter what decision I make. I kind of feel like an a-hole in this whole situation, because I could help my sister out with the tuition, but I am just refusing to because of how she has treated me my entire life. So I want some stranger's opinion on if I'm being an a-hole here. Not an a-hole. She slags you off, sends inappropriate images to your partner telling him to leave you, then goes crazy when told no and don't speak for 4 years, then comes in an organized ambush, shows up at an unexpected dinner invite from your mother, and just comes out with this? My god, what a such a must-have. Holy crap. And to be honest, your mother is not far off as bad for what she is doing either, knowing what she has done. This isn't a live and let die situation in my opinion. I am astonished by the audacity of the sister and mother. What the sister did is a serious betrayal that warrants no contact. However, the mother expecting Opie to bury the hatchet is like condoning Allie's behavior. What gets to me is that Allie didn't even apologize just once. I bet Allie got her attitude and entitlement from her mother, since mom is not far off. Not a a-hole. You have no obligation to sponsor your niece and nephew's education. It is not your responsibility at all. Also, just because you are better off, it does not mean your family is automatically entitled to your money. And finally, Ellie does not deserve any help from all she had done. Not day-haul times 1000. She started sending nudes to John, telling him to leave me for her, etc. There was a big fight when she turned her down. She called him a cradle robber and some other less than pleasant things. This crap right here? You don't owe her a damn thing for the rest of your life. She tried and failed miserably to seduce your husband. She is jealous she didn't get the rich husband and has been bitter about it ever since. Screw her. She just wants to use you for money. Actions have consequences. These are hers. That being said, if you want to help your niece and nephew with the debt quietly later on, that's always an option. But keep her out of it. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to share my college fund? I, 19 female, have an aunt, Amy, 38 female, who I love and she loves me dearly. It's never been explicitly stated, but between my sister Kim, 17 female, and I'm the favorite niece. I didn't really notice. I was around my early teens. But whenever I had an event, my aunt would always try to be there, while she was never there for anything my sister did. I got nicer presents, there are pictures of me in her house, and she texts/calls me regularly. She barely acknowledges my sister, and I never knew why. One of the reasons why it took so long for me to notice was because whenever someone would mention something about a different treatment, our mom would brush it off. And since Amy was my paternal aunt, I just accepted it. Fast forward to now, and my mom sat me down and asked me if I would be willing to go to a less expensive school so I could have extra money to share with Kim. Aunt Amy set up a fund for me and my two cousins but didn't have a dime for Kim. She did this with Kim looking at me for an answer and got upset that I didn't give a definite yes. She accused me of not caring about her just like Aunt Amy and is refusing to speak to me until I give her half the money. I thought that this was wildly unfair and asked my parents why they didn't have their own fund for Kim since Aunt Amy was taking care of me. They said that they did, but it wasn't as much as what Aunt Amy had for me. She's a smart woman who makes a lot of money and admitted that they had to dip into it to help pay for things when my dad wasn't working because of COVID. I feel bad for Kim, but I don't want to sacrifice my future college experience for it. Am I really being so maliciously selfish? Now for the comments. Not a-hole. Amy can do what she likes with her money, and you should be able to go to whichever school you choose. However, I'm surprised your parents haven't called Amy on this. If it was me, I need to sit down with Amy and ask her outright why there's favoritism. That's something I've started to ask now that I'm aware. My aunt always said she loved her siblings' children equally, and whenever Kim complained growing up, my parents would brush it off. Is there any chance that she thinks your younger sister is an affair child and not biologically her niece? That is the only explanation I could think of. But it still makes no sense that Kim would be treated differently if your father treats her as an equal daughter. Everyone sucks here. You knew there was favoritism. You witnessed it. It is quite hard to believe you didn't take advantage of that favoritism. Let's be real for a minute. That being said, it was given to you and it's yours to do with as you please. Your aunt is a giant a-hole, and so are your parents for not being objective enough to see it when it started. Your sister will resent you. She is right to do so because you took advantage of the situation instead of calling it out, and possibly having to share many years ago. You reap what you sow. My take on this is that it's a hell of a thing to be asked to give up a college fund, so I wouldn't blame Opie if the answer was no. However, if her sister hates her for the rest of her life and thinks she's scummy, it would be hard to argue that the sister is wrong. You're the a-hole. Yes, of course, you have no obligation to share your fund. It's within every right to go to the more expensive school and have your parents figure it out. However, I don't know how you could morally be okay with accepting all of this money fully aware there was favoritism, and your sister continues to get the crappy end of everything. If I had the opportunity to help my little sister, damn right I'd split it with her. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife I won't/can't watch our son? I have a good job, I make good money, and I work hard enough to earn it. To the point that about 4 years ago after our son was born, when my wife decided not to go back to work, I became the only source of income. This worked out well and everyone was happy, until COVID hit. Once the pandemic started causing shutdowns, my role was transitioned from an office downtown to working from home. I was a big fan of this. I work 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday to Saturday typically. So not having to commute meant that now I got to be home to put my son to bed and read him at night, and have more time to spend with my wife in the evenings. The only problem is that my wife has struggled with the idea that the location of my job has changed, but my responsibilities have not. I've had several discussions with her about the fact that even though I'm home now, I'm not able to watch our son during the day, or explaining why I can't get to the dishes till that evening. She will nod along too, but I don't think she really believes it. This has caused tension but not an outright fight until this week. Some of our mutual friends are coming into town this weekend, and we had made plans to spend time with them. However, on Monday, my wife informs me that the couple is actually getting in Friday, and she and her friend are going to get lunch and go shopping. She tells me that I need to watch our son, and I respond by saying again that I can't. I have work, and Monday to Friday is not enough heads up for me to take a day off. She gets angry at me, saying she watches our son every day while I just sit in my office from sunup to sundown, and how I should be able to watch our son so she can have a day off. She's given me the cold shoulder since then. I would love to spend a day with my son. I just can't take the time off in such short notice. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole, but working 14 hours per day, 6 days a week is simply not sustainable for any family or marriage. I was just going to say the same thing. It's great that he can provide, but the lack of time at home with the family is taking its toll. What kind of job requires those hours anyway? One working with coders from Seattle to Warsaw. Everyone sucks here. Your wife is an a-hole for expecting you to take time off rather last minute. You are an a-hole because you are putting all of the child rearing on her even if she is a stay-at-home mom. This boy's still your son. You're working 14-hour days. 6 days a week is freaking ridiculous. Very few relationships can even last with work hours like this. If I am correct, you are a project manager in a tech company. If this is the case, you are salaried. You aren't getting paid more to work overtime. It really makes me wonder if you are messing around your computer most of the day, which leads to these hours. That, or you work at a crappy company. While overtime is common in the tech industry, 80 hours plus weeks are not. Even the people I know making $200,000 a year in tech only average 50 or so hour weeks. Something isn't right with us. You really need to start focusing on your family, or else you won't have them anymore. Am I the a-hole for not letting my family anywhere near my family? This whole thing technically started years ago, but I feel that context is needed. About 10 years ago when I, 36 male now, married my wife, 35 female, we wanted to start our family right away, but life didn't really pan out. It was actually a mix between both my partner and I having fertility issues. My family tried to convince me to break up with my wife, because, and I quote, she can't carry our family name. Even though I told them it was also in part of my personal fertility issue, but they just blamed my wife. To add context to that, I'm the only male born in my generation, so I was the only one that got married and passed my family name down, and my family is very traditionalist to say the least. I'd cut them out of my life due to this. On to the situation now. After a lot of heartaches and going through different approaches including IVF and every other treatment that were available to us, we are now parents to 2 beautiful baby boys. A set of twins. Wasn't expecting that, but a welcome surprise to say the least. We also have an adopted daughter who is now 13, but my family didn't want anything to do with her, and such. Another reason why we went full no contact. Somehow my family caught wind of this, and they now want to be part of mine and my children's lives. But I won't let them, and my dad claims they have rights as the grandparents, and that is not okay for me to not let them see the babies. To see the next generation of our family, even though they have other grandkids from my sisters. I told him outright that the kids don't even have a surname. They have my wife's surname. Yes, this was done purely out of spite. And that even I changed my name and we took on my wife's name after everything that went down 10 years ago. As you can imagine, things blew up. I'm being called a monster, loser, petty, weirdo, traitor, a-hole, every name in the book really. I'm blocking every numbered user on social media as they come in. But my family's going hard at it. My wife is standing by my choice, as they had said some awful things to her to try to get her to willingly leave me. But I just want to know, from you and biased people here, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not stay home. Do what's best for your kids, Opie. You know your family better than us. And from what you wrote, I really wouldn't want them in my life either. Thank you for your reply. After the things they said, I don't want my family to have access to my children. Had to remove a lot due to character limits. But one thing that especially irked me when I first adopted my daughter was my mom said, to my daughter's face, "Hello, not real granddaughter." Sure, she didn't understand my mom at the time as she only knew her native language, Mandarin. We adopted her from my wife's cousin. But like, who says that to a 2-year-old kid? Shaking my damn head. Damn, Opie, that's really messed up. Go on living your best life and don't care about your family, and give your real family the best life. Not stay home. They are demonstrating to you exactly why they should not be part of your family. They don't earn a place in your family again by disparaging you and behaving poorly. If you let them back in, they would make it very, very clear to your children that only the twin boys are actually part of the family, and that your daughter is not. You are doing the right thing protecting your family from your family. That's one of my fears if I do accept my family. Won't, but it's still a fear. That they would treat my kids differently. No way am I about to subject my daughter to that nonsense. Not stay home. You are better off without these horrible people. Also, congratulations for being a good husband and father. It's great you had your wife's back all the time, and you didn't bend to your family's ridiculous demands. Thank you. After a straight month plus of dealing with us, it's reassuring to hear that. Next story is titled, "Am I the a-hole for announcing my pregnancy in front of my infertile friend? She recently found out." I, 25 female, found out I was pregnant about 3 weeks ago. We decided to wait until we told. Our friends are like our family, and we share everything with each other right when they happen, so this was not typical behavior. 2 friends in the group are Sandra, 28 female, and her husband, Sam. Sandra can't biologically have children, and they found out about it a month ago, hence why I waited to announce the pregnancy. Both of them were sad about it. Sam and I grew up together, so I know how much she wanted kids. Both my husband and I knew we had to tell our friends. I already had started to show symptoms, and I don't want them to feel like I kept this from them, as we are very close. All of us have been friends since forever. Most of us have not so great family too, so we're each other's chosen family, and we wanted to share this happy moment with them. So we called everyone over to our house. Everyone already knew something great happened because I always make cookies when I have good news. I told them yes, something great has happened, and that I was pregnant. I told them that I found out a month ago as a response to someone who asked. Then Kelsey, another friend, told me she was hurt we didn't tell them immediately like she did when she was pregnant. Everyone was happy for us, or so I thought, and I felt so much relief after telling them. Sam gave me a hug, and I could see he was happy but sad, and I told him that I actually wanted him to be the godfather of our baby. He just kept hugging me, and I started crying, out of happiness. I didn't notice until Kelsey's husband pointed out, but Sandra was no longer sitting on a couch. So I went to the kitchen to check on her and she was crying. I told her I'm sorry if this was difficult considering her news, and asked her if she needed anything at all. She didn't say anything, and just went to the living room. I followed her and she just turned around and said, "You're a witch." I was shocked, and I guess said, "What?" and left. She said I was so insensitive and that I purposefully got pregnant. She was sobbing and I just didn't know what to do. My friends comforted her while Sam and my husband checked on me. Later it was just Sandra, Sam, my husband, and me. Because my husband said whatever this was, we had to talk about it since we were family. Sandra said it was a jerk move to announce my pregnancy just 3 weeks after she found out she couldn't have kids, that there was nothing to talk about. She left and Sam stayed back to apologize. This happened a week ago, and no one has heard from Sandra. I can't sleep and I feel so guilty. Everyone insists I'm not the a-hole, but they might be biased because who tells pregnant women they're an a-hole, right? So I'm hoping you guys will tell me the truth, because if I'm in the wrong, I need to apologize. Edited to add, both Sandra and Sam agreed to be godparents way before I was pregnant. This was finalized before, not at a party. You're the a-hole. The thoughtful thing to do would have been to speak with the 2 of them privately ahead of time, instead of surprising them in a group setting, especially since you were well aware they were so upset about their diagnosis. This. Congratulations on your pregnancy, but you should really have told Sandra beforehand. I don't know. I understand the sentiment here, but doing that would have had the same effect on the other friends, since they're all so close. It was really a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. I think Opie did the best she could by waiting to say anything at all. You're the a-hole. Just to make sure, You knew Sandra couldn't have kids? And you still decided to announce pregnancy in front of a group of friends that included her. Yeah, insensitive as hell. You should have told her in private beforehand. Tell her that you're announcing at X date and you'd understand if she didn't want to join. Yes, that's why we waited a month before telling them. Thank you for all the valid points. I get what I did wrong now. A month to get over their lost hopes and dreams? Look, you were excited, but you were mindlessly unkind here. Telling them privately would have afforded them the opportunity to process their difficult feelings so they could support and celebrate you as a group. You chose to catch them unaware, and I'm sorry, but I don't buy your ignorance that being surprised with a crowd was going to be hard for them. You're either shockingly ignorant or pretty callous. A big apology is necessary. I agree. I should have told them privately. Hence why I will apologize. Thanks for helping. Update. Sandra's texting me back. I'll call her soon too. I apologized and we're talking it out, and things are going better than I hoped. I know the final judgment hasn't been decided, but to be honest, I am the a-hole. I should have waited, and I know that now. I was in the wrong. Thanks for the help. I'm glad about how things turned out. You lot helped me write my apology too. Last update. Things are okay, and we're okay. I apologized, she understood. Thanks for all the help. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to make my husband's sister-in-law baby clothes and blankets? My husband's older brother is married to Bree. Bree and I got along really well when we first met and grew close. I'm an only child, and it was nice having someone who tried to have a sisterly relationship with me. In 2018, I was pregnant with my daughter Grace, and life was good. Then I suffered a placental abruption and took the life of my baby girl and left me with fertility issues as well as a risk if I do get pregnant again. The loss of my daughter broke me, and I'm still in a state of disbelief. I always wanted to be a mom, and I feel like that was taken from me. I never got to hold my baby girl while she was alive. I never got to hear her cry, see her eyes or anything. And even though we have tried for another baby, we were aware it could cause health issues for me. I am still willing to try, but it's hard, and my husband doesn't know what's best. Before I lost Grace, I used to make baby clothes and blankets as a side business. It did really well, because a lot of local people liked that I could personalize however they wanted. After Grace, I don't do it anymore. I can't. Now my husband's sister-in-law is almost ready to pop with her and my brother-in-law's first child, and she asked me if I would make her and the baby some clothes and blankets. I told her I wasn't doing that anymore, but we had bought stuff. She asked me to do it for her and my niece, and I told her as much as I love her, I can't. She told me she understood, but then a few days later told me she thinks I should still do it out of love for her, and a way to show I'm healing and working on living my life again instead of letting our loss change it. I told her my life will always be different. I will always carry Grace's loss with me, and making her clothes is not a step I'm ready to take. She and my brother-in-law are upset with me, as they feel like I'm trying to bring them down by not making clothes like I did for other people before. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You have every right to grieve however you want, and you also have the right to create whatever boundaries you want. That's really selfish of sister-in-law to push you into doing something you're not ready to do. Stick with your I'm unable to do that. I'm very sorry for your loss. Opie also has the right to grieve at her own speed. Bree doesn't get to decide Opie should show I am healing and working on living my life again at this point. Keep telling her no, Opie. Or block her for a while so you don't have to deal with her noise. People can be incredibly cruel about grieving. 2 weeks after my father died, my aunt was already telling me to get over it, that I needed to go back to normal. I was 16 and had just become an orphan. 100% not the a-hole. I'm really sorry, Opie. They are the a-holes, not you. I suffer from infertility, and those who don't struggle with any type or any loss will never understand. Screw them for trying to force you to move on. Grieve at your own pace. Forcing it will only make matters worse. All you can do is stand your ground and tell them that you hope they never have to experience such a devastating loss. Also, if you need a support group, r/infertility sucks is fantastic. If you aren't already a member, go post this in it. We're extremely supportive. They are the a-holes so bad. I will never fully understand, but I can say that intellectually, Opie's stance is not hard to understand. It hurts her heart to make baby clothes. That is all I would need to hear. End of story. The sister-in-law's found to try to manipulate Opie after her feelings were made clear. Trying to say it is for Opie's benefit to do it as a process of healing? Get out of here with that crap. Grief in general is a very personal thing. It's not a linear thing and it is unpredictable. But what it is to each of us is different. They don't need to understand the grief. They just need to be aware of it. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife to stop overreacting about me picking up my son early from school? My son recently started 5th grade a few weeks ago. He's an excellent student, always on top of his homework and one of the brightest kids in his class. He made friends with a classmate before COVID lockdown, and they stayed close. Unfortunately, his friend passed away in April. He's seen a therapist since and has been doing better. However, on Tuesday, my son called me during lunchtime crying. He asked me if he could be picked up early because he didn't feel right. My son's never done this before. For one thing, he's a terrible liar, and I haven't heard him this upset since he first found out what happened to his friend. He talked me through what was going on. Some kids were talking about his friend, not in a bad way, and he got very emotional/overwhelmed. It made him very sad because they would have the same class together this year. There was about 3 hours left in the school day, so I picked him up. Was able to get whatever homework from his teacher. He was still upset when I picked him up, then cried some more in the car. Luckily, his therapist was available for an impromptu video session when we made it home. My wife got home from work, and I'd already texted her earlier about what happened. We got into an argument because it was irresponsible to take him out of school for that reason, and I'm affecting his education. After telling her why, she still believes he should have stuck it out the rest of the day, and not use his friend's death as an excuse to miss out on class. He's been going to school every day for weeks without problems, but that day in particular was a bad day. I'd understand my wife if it was a regular occurrence, but it's the first time he's ever been asked to be picked up. Frankly, to me, I just don't see how missing less than half a day once would affect him the way my wife is saying it will. She brought it up again today, and I got fed up. It was already days ago, and so I told her to stop overreacting about this already. Reason she thinks I'm an a-hole is because I'm dismissing her concerns about him missing out that day and acting like they aren't a big deal. Which honestly doesn't seem like they are. His homework was done and he still understands the material. It's hard to see why this is something she's still hung up on. Especially since we've already agreed to make sure this doesn't become a regular thing. She's still mad and still giving me the silent treatment. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You're legitimizing your son's emotions. You're showing him it's okay to take a mental health break. You're also reinforcing the fact that he knows he can rely and depend on you. Half a day of the 5th grade is not going to make up for all the positive behaviors you're imparting. Also, you should look up articles on emotional mistreatment. Everyone thinks the silent treatment is a pretty normal thing, but it's actually a form of emotional abuse. The silent treatment is such childish bullcrap. It's honestly hard to comprehend actual adults doing it. Basically, it's the adult version of throwing a tantrum at the store because you didn't get the treats you wanted. I do have to say, sometimes I've been so angry that I need some time to distress or cool down before talking to specific people after an argument or whatever. But generally, I try to let them know we need some time before we can have a productive discussion. Not day home. Teacher here. Please explain the following to your wife. 1. Education works on a spiral. Skills are revisited over and over to cement them, so missing one afternoon will be inconsequential. 2. For any learning to take place, a person has to be in the right frame of mind. If they are not feeling safe and happy, then instead of, say, learning long multiplication techniques, they will be learning to avoid a situation where they are feeling distressed. So even if he had stayed in school, he would have learned nothing of the curriculum. 3. Some things are more important than school. Knowing that he has a father who has his back, who understands him and can help him and protect him. That will help him grow and be able to take risks and become a man. Your wife is being very short-sighted here. Had you forced him to stay in school distressed, he would learn that his parents don't care about his welfare. Kids who know that often rebel when they're older and drop out of school as an act of defiance. I appreciate this insight very much, thank you. Hope maybe she could see that missing one day wouldn't negatively affect his schoolwork while he was dealing with us. Not today home. You 100% did the right thing as a concerned parent. What a terrible thing to go through as a young child. Have experienced many personal losses, but certainly not at his age. I know it's a major struggle for him to come to terms with. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to pay for my father's medical bills? My female 29 parents divorced when I was about 10 years old, and I have had no contact with my father after a year because he made a choice to prioritize his new family, a stepson who is currently 33 years old and eventually his children with his new wife over my brother and I. No visitation after he got remarried at all. When we called to ask when he was going to visit us, he would just say that he was busy. Before the divorce, I was literally daddy's little girl, his beloved golden child. No joke. I thought my father was the best and I wanted to marry a man like him when I grew up. So the fact that he just dropped my brother and me off has caused a deep-seated wound in my heart, which I will never ever forgive him for causing. He never paid child support, so my mother had to support my brother and I as a single parent. She decided not to take him to court as she never wanted anything to do with him again, even though parents had 50-50 custody. However, 18 years is a long time, and thanks to my mother's love and care for us, I have already forgotten about him and moved on with my life. Same goes for my brother. We have both grown up to live comfortably in our lives, take care of our mother and love her to no end. The story is that this morning, his stepson 33 contacted me via Facebook and said he wanted to talk to me regarding our father. And I was confused at first, and then remembered that yes, I had someone like that in my life. He told me that our father has a medical condition and treatment costs a lot, sent together with screenshots of his medical reports, and that it would be nice if we could pay his bills. And also that my father wanted to speak to my brother and I. I told him that that man lost the rights to be my father when he decided to not have any contact with us. And also that his father's medical bills are none of my concern. So as his children, he shouldn't go around harassing random people for money. Also, all those years of unpaid child support could be used to cover his medical expenses. After which he called me a vengeful and heartless witch, to which I just replied with a smiling emoji and blocked him. I talked to my mom about this, and she said while I have the right to be angry with him, he is still my father and is unwell, so I could help them out a bit. I told her no way in hell am I going to pay for his bills. He has his children to pay for it, so let them settle it. He made his bed, now let him sleep on it. Was I the a-hole here? Now for the top comments. Nope, not the a-hole at all. Regardless, your father out and out discarded you, and as far as you know, has never made any attempt to see you or talk to you in 18 years. Hell no. On a separate note, your mother is a bit of an a-hole for not pursuing child support. It's not for her, it's for you and your brother. And she wants you to contribute? Nope. She wanted nothing to do with him, wouldn't even let any of his money go to supporting your upbringing, so you can do the same. I believe Opie's mom is a total a-hole for not pursuing child support. She sounds really weak and gutless. Yeah, it really does suck dealing with the courts and a deadbeat ex, but she should have done it anyway. I don't think we can judge the mom on that completely. We don't know how the father treated her, or if she wanted to force the children into a situation where they had to deal with their prickish father. Not stay home. Your mother needs to stay out of this. She made a decision to not go after him for child support, which was wrong. That was not her money she was forfeiting. It was your money. Your father bailed out of your life a long time ago. There was no way in hell I would talk to the stepson or anybody else about this. You are not an ATM. True. They only want Opie because they have the money, not because they want Opie in their life. If Opie's mom wants to contribute so badly, then she can put up the money. Not the a-hole. The man is an a-hole. He chose to drop you and not to support you in any way. If they tried to sue you, you have all the unpaid child support to prove he was not up to his responsibilities as a parent, and thus you owe him nothing. Your mother was an a-hole for not taking him to court, and thus robbing you of the child support he owed you. If she wants to keep helping him, she can pitch in. That man is not your father. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not giving my mother my brother's number? My 16 female mother has cancer. She's getting treatment, but I don't think it's working well. It's hard, and we've all been a mess. But yeah, my mom has a son from her previous marriage, Brady, 27 male. My mom didn't treat him well, but he cut contact with her when he turned 18, and I'm pretty sure he calls his stepmother mom. I don't blame him and can respect/accept the fact that while my mom was a great mother to me, she was a terrible one to him. We talk occasionally, but it's usually just him sending me pictures of his wife and kids, and me sending him pictures of my cat and I. Lol. He has zero contact with my parents. I don't know if it's the cancer or the inevitable, but my mom has been talking about Brady a lot. I tell her things like, oh, he's fine, etc. You know, a general idea, but I don't go into detail to respect his privacy. But then my mom started asking me to make him visit at least once. So I texted Brady and asked if he wanted to visit, and he said no. It would be too hard, and then he just changed the topic. I didn't ask him to explain. I told my mother and she started crying. She begged me to give her his number, and that she just wanted to see her first baby one last time. She wanted a chance to apologize and tell him that she loved him. I was really tempted, not gonna lie, but I just couldn't. I love my brother and he's always been kind to me. The least I can do is respect his wishes. It hurts to see my mother cry while she's already in such a weak state, but I refused to give her his number. She just cried harder and asked me why I was torturing her as well, basically implying that I'm in the wrong for preventing her from seeing her son. My dad is upset with me as well and said that he can't believe I'm choosing a spoiled bastard over my sick mother. I don't think I'm the a-hole, but I do feel horrible. My mom is incredibly unwell. It is true that she can't really do anything. It's the only thing she's asking for these days. But I just can't. Does that make me an a-hole? Not the a-hole, especially after what your father said. Your brother is a person just like your mom. And just because your mom is upset now doesn't excuse her behavior toward your brother. You might end up having to go stay with your brother if your dad decides to continue being angry with you after your mom passes. Agreed. The parents are definitely stressed and grieving. But if they blame the brother for the mother's poor parenting, then it's not unlikely they'll direct resentment at OP. Yes, this is very complex, but you're not the a-hole though. If I were in your shoes, to be honest, I would reach out to Brady one last time and tell him that she's sick, and if any part of him wanted closure, now is the time. Reason not being that she deserves his forgiveness, but that he might wish he did talk to her later in life. So, no, don't give her his number, but I would make sure that he knows the full, and I'm not pushing way at all, of course, situation, and that she's very regretful. That way, if there is some hurt, she can heal before it's too late and he doesn't miss out. But if he doesn't want to, then unfortunately she simply has to deal with the consequences of her actions and can't just ransack his life regardless of his wishes. Not stay home. You may want to consider adding a password to your phone, if you don't already have one, and changing your brother's contact name in your phone in case your mother decides to go snooping for his number. Not stay home. She had years and years if your brother's dead. Now it's making her realize what she's done. As much as the general advice is usually stay out of it, part of me feels that you might suggest she writes down how she feels, and then you just tell your brother that you have this. And that is then left to him if he reads it or not. But she's given a chance to make her peace. But if he then chooses not to read it or respond, your conscience would be clear. You absolutely poor thing to be in the middle of this. Who is looking after you, my dear? The letter might be a good idea. And it's sweet of you for asking about me. I'm fine. I don't think the situation's really sunk in for anyone yet, so I don't blame my parents for being preoccupied. My brother sends me money every 2 weeks, plus I also have my cat. Thanks again. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for ruining my father's gender reveal? My 38 female father, 66 male, started dating Vanessa, 26 female, during the 2020 lockdown. He's always been very vocal about wanting a son. Even when me and my sister were little, father would scorn mother for us not being boys. He hated the idea that someday we might get married to men he didn't approve of. He cut off my sister for this reason. I've ended several long-term relationships over the years because he also threatened to cut me off. No one was ever good enough, yet I was always pressured to have kids of my own. Vanessa is now pregnant. She called me inviting me to the gender reveal, and knowing my father's history, this concerned me. I asked if it expressed any favoritism to a certain gender, and she said that he hadn't. Apparently, he doesn't care at all what gender the baby is and will love it either way. BS. The gender reveal was at my father's house in the country. I stayed over the day before, so was there when everything was being set up. They were doing the reveal using gifts that only half the guest had, depending if they picked a blue present box or a pink one. It was my job to get the text from the doctor and to tell the present people which color box to put the gift in. I was one of the first to find out that baby was a girl. Throughout the time I was there, Father kept on with his "I don't care what gender" spiel in front of Vanessa. But in private, he stated multiple times his preference for it to be a boy. If it wasn't a boy, then he said he'd be happy to go another round until he got one, unless Vanessa lost her figure. He constantly said like he felt it was a boy and that he's got it right and finally getting a last name, son. He also asked me for hints as he knew I knew the gender. Every time he did, I heavily implied he was right. To clarify, I never lied or told him the gender. I just implied that he was right. By the time the party happened, he was convinced and went around telling people he was certain it was a boy and trying to look impressive. Suffice to say, when his blue present box was empty and Vanessa's wasn't, he wasn't very happy. Everyone who didn't already know he'd wanted a boy could tell he was upset, and Vanessa was clearly uncomfortable. He blamed me for lying to him and said that out of my jealousy, I ruined the event. Apparently, he wouldn't have thought it was a boy if I hadn't told him. But he also said I ruined Vanessa's experience, and I do feel bad about that. It's her first baby and she was so happy to find out what it would be. I might have ruined her experience by egging my father on in his convictions. I feel like I didn't do anything wrong, but if I hadn't said anything, Father might have been able to act better. Am I the a-hole? It's not relevant, but adding as people are mentioning it in comments. My sister passed away a few years ago. I stay involved for the inheritance. Yes, for myself, but mostly for her son/my nephew, so he might be able to get the opportunities he deserves. Added to, all the Henry VIII parallels are cracking me up. But I have to say, with 2 girls and 1 boy, Henry did have the better odds. Now for the top comments. I'm sorry, but what? Your dad is 66 and dating a girl of 26? And no one in your family's concerned about that or considers that extremely creepy? And now she's pregnant as well. Not stay home. We all think it's rather weird. I deleted this point to get it within the character limit, but he has a lot of money, so that plays a huge part in it. Is his money the reason you care about being cut off? I can't imagine any other reason for wanting to keep him in my life. And even that isn't enough. Live your life. His money isn't worth your happiness. His money has given me a house. It allowed me to start my own business. But it's true. I could make enough now to walk away. I stay in the picture for my nephew mostly. As my sister was cut off, he wouldn't benefit at all unless it was from my inheritance that I'll leave/put in trust for him. Your dad is the a-hole for dating someone 40 years younger than him and having a child at his age. When the child turns 18, he will be 84 to 85 years old. It sounds like an awkward situation all around, but you just kind of played it cool. He's probably more mad that he didn't have a son and channeled his frustrations at you. Not the a-hole, but you have some interesting family dynamics. Health problems and neurological problems are also much more prevalent in kids with very old fathers. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for blowing up at a nurse for telling me that my daughter wasn't my daughter? So me and my partner adopted our daughter 2 years ago. We don't have any biological children, and we don't really plan to just yet. Our daughter is 6 years old now. She does understand that she's adopted, and we've made it clear time and time again that even though she didn't come from my belly, we still love her and treat her as if she did. The other day, I took her to a pediatrician because she said that one of her ears felt full. She did have a cold last week, so that was expected. It is said that her ear would drain out eventually. All good. The nurse comes in with a discharge sheet and commented that she would have never assumed that I was the mother of my daughter since I looked nothing like her, which I don't, for obvious reasons. So then I said, oh yeah, we adopted her, so that's why she doesn't look me or my husband. Then this nurse goes, oh, okay, so she isn't your daughter. I was a little confused because I thought I had just explained this whole situation. I said again, she is my daughter. We adopted her a few years back. The nurse says, but technically she isn't your daughter, and her real mom is somewhere else. I was really upset because what the actual hell? I said again, but she is my daughter and I am her mom. The nurse kind of sighed and said, okay, maybe legally you are, but her real mom is the one that gave birth to her. My daughter was looking up at me kind of confused and I can't even imagine what was going through her head. I had enough. I said to this nurse, what the hell is wrong with you? I keep telling you that I am her mother, and you keep denying that. In front of my daughter, no less. The nurse goes, I'm just stating a fact. Biologically, she's not yours. I went again, yeah, because she's adopted. We adopted her and gave her a home. What, I have to push her out of my V to be her mother? The nurse goes, well, that's the dictionary definition of what a mom is. I had enough. I told her to wash her mouth of the BS she had been saying at me and my daughter, and I left and went home. I was really shaken up at this point, and was still when we got home and my husband noticed. I told him what had happened. He told me that the nurse was really dumb for saying that, but I shouldn't have blown up on her like that. As a nurse, call the office manager and report that nurse. The amount of obscenities I want to use would probably get me banned, but she was beyond unprofessional for every single word of that. And she said it in front of your daughter? I guarantee that is not how we are taught in nursing school. I am so angry on your behalf. But please report her. Not stay home. As a nurse, I agree. She's not only unprofessional, but violated the nursing code of ethics. And also general human morality. Not stay home, but please report this nurse. It's incredibly unprofessional, and she needs to be reprimanded. Who knows what insensitive thing she'll say to someone a lot more vulnerable. She makes my blood boil. I'm so mad on your behalf. Exactly this. Please report this person ASAP. This condescending attitude, especially in front of your child, is completely unacceptable. The doubling down with a whole definition response is what made my blood boil. I would have told her to look up some other choice words in her little dictionary. Someone that speaks to clients this way is entitled and ignorant. She definitely doesn't listen to her patients, and that's frustrating at least and dangerous at most. Edit. Thank you so much for everyone's kindness and support. My husband did apologize to me and he gets that I was just sticking up for our child. Who is our child whether people like it or not? We went to the clinic in person and filed a complaint, and hopefully it will turn out in our favor, and in favor of those who don't exactly have a so-called traditional family. Thanks again.
For this AITA episode, a young man was adopted as a baby, and somehow his bio parents found out where he lives and contacted him to demand he donate bone marrow to his sick birth father, and says they're going to sue him if he refused. Now let's read this saga. Original post. I, 17 male, am adopted. My birth parents weren't able to care for a newborn, and I ended up in foster care because of it. I was adopted by my family when I was 2. I have a very happy life, one I likely wouldn't have with my birth parents. About a month ago, my birth parents got into contact with my family. Long story short, my birth father is sick and needs a bone marrow transplant. They are on a wait list but haven't heard back just yet. I am the only child they ever had, and odds are I am a match. Pretty much they wanted my parents to get me tested and then donate my marrow to him. My parents told me that it's up to me, and after some thought, I said no. I don't know them other than they gave birth to me. They have had no part in my life whatsoever, and now they suddenly need me. Well, they send my parents a nasty message saying they can sue to force me to donate my marrow. I do feel a little bad, but I feel like this isn't my problem. Am I in the wrong here? Edit. Sorry, right after I posted, I went to the store with my mom. Just wanted to clear up some things I read in the comments. I have no contact or anything with my birth parents. From what my parents told me, I was put into foster care when I was less than a month old. That is how they got me, and they decided to adopt me, which was finalized when I turned 2. I have 4 siblings and I have a great life. They told me when I was old enough that I am adopted, but outside of that, I had no idea who my birth parents were or what they even looked like. Someone said I should do it because what if I need medical information, want to get to know them, or something like that. Yeah, no. I have no desire to get to know these people. None. I have no desire to seek out grandparents, cousins, and uncles. I don't want to know if some form of rare cancer runs in the family, because they are not my family. I haven't spent 17 years of my life with them. Why would I want to get to know them? Edit 2. For those of you who keep saying, you should reconsider it. How about you donate to him? My parents told me to think about. I thought it, and the answer is no. No, I'm not doing it. That's it. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not wrong, I'm no doctor, but I hear donating bone marrow can be a very risky procedure. I almost burst out laughing in the freaking office when I read they'd sue you to force you. They'll be laughed out of court, assuming they even get that far. When I signed up for the registry, I was told that now there are 2 methods to donate. The most common method involves removing the marrow from your blood, and is the same as any blood donation. It is very easy to sign up, by the way. There is a website where they will send you a swab. You swab yourself and put it back in the mail. Not wrong, I donated bone marrow to my sister 5 years ago. It was no small thing. I had complications with the surgery, couldn't walk for 2 weeks, and other things. It was really, really painful. I was going to give you sort of a pep talk about doing it anyway, since you would be potentially saving a life, even if it's the life of a complete stranger. That was until I read the line about how they threatened to sue you to force you to donate. That's the most tragically hilarious thing I've ever read. You cannot force a person to undergo a voluntary surgery. You should call their bluff. Indeed, not wrong, especially after the suing part. Wish them good luck with that. They didn't want you then, they won't have you now. Also, went through the procedure as well. I raise you're not walking for 2 weeks, with bordering needing a blood transplant, not being able to work for over a month, and having to take medication to get my hemoglobin levels up again for months. I also couldn't lift my own baby for weeks, aside from the not walking. The pain meds also barely worked, so the pain was horrible for well over a week before it got bearable with paracetamol. Took much heavier ones before that, as if they were candy. I now have 14 scars on my lower back that I still feel sometimes. It's been well over a year. Surgical donation is no joke. And the dialysis one is not exactly a ride in the park either, thanks to those meds you have to take beforehand. Not wrong. How dare they threaten you like that? They gave up all rights to you at birth and are now still not wanting a relationship, just for you to undergo a medical procedure to save his life. Way to go, guys. They could have asked to meet you so they could plead their case, but they went nuclear. Ignore them. Now for the first update. It's early, I'm getting ready for school between typing this. Read more comments this morning, and again let me clear something all. My egg and sperm donors didn't lovingly give me up. I was taken. My parents don't know the exact reason because that information was never released to them. They were just told, and I quote, "It wasn't a good environment for a child." I was taken. Even if they had given me up, doesn't mean I owe them anything. Not like I asked to be born like every freaking child on this green earth. If being born means I am suddenly in debt to them, I would have been the slowest sperm you ever seen. I would have happily raced into a sock. Y'all can be a bunch of hypocrites. In one breath you say there are kids in foster care who need a home. Well, I was a foster kid who was given a home by 2 loving parents. Then in the next breath you are saying, what about your family? I have a family. They have raised me for 17 years. Medical history. Some very helpful people have privately messaged me to let me know that in 2021, I get all that stuff without ever having to speak to these people again. Ever. Amazing how far science has come, right? I'm going to be showing this to some of my friends today because I have to admit, I'm over it. It's not my problem if this man dies. And again, some people have pointed out in the comments, odds are, I wouldn't be a match anyway. And he has been luck getting a donor off the list, and it will be faster than waiting on me to get tested only to be told I'm not a match anyway. And again, with those on your hill screaming, well, wouldn't you donate to a stranger? I donate blood mostly because it gets me out of PE class. I like donating blood. If someone receives that blood, then congratulations. I put no more thought into it besides that. Even if they had come to my parents and said, hey, you adopted our son, and well, we need a favor. Sorry to ask blah blah. My answer would have still been no. I did my own research and found plenty of stories of kids who were used like gold mines for their genetic materials by their parents to save their siblings or a family member. And that is all they were to their families, someone who had the right match. I don't owe them anything. I don't care if she spent 8 hours in labor with me. They aren't my family. I have a wonderful family who are supporting me right now. Also, my parents are working on finding how the heck they even knew where I was, because my adoption was a closed one. They had their rights terminated when I was taken. They shouldn't know anything about me. I don't know if they are contacting a lawyer or anything. I know they are pretty upset about all of this. I have to get to school. Later. Now for the second update. I know this is long overdue. I started college. Life in COVID put things on hold for a bit. Long story short, I didn't donate the bone marrow. My birth parents started harassing my family on the regular, texts, phone calls, letters, showing up at places, resulting in calls to the police. They were arrested. My adoption had been closed, but they used some shady private investigator to find me and basically just showed up on the doorstep demanding my bone marrow. My family did press charges. As of right now, as far as I am aware, they are still sitting in a prison cell while they wait for their day in court, as things are still delayed due to the cough. I guess my sperm donator's illness wasn't that serious or he got a donation. I don't know. Anyway, just thought I would update this old post. I'll answer questions if you have them. That is it. Edit. Someone asked why I was taken. Honestly, I still don't know the full story, nor do my parents. They said they asked but never got the full answer. The answer they told me was someone called the police and told them to do a welfare check on my sperm and egg donator, complaining they constantly heard a baby, meaning me crying. Meds may have been involved, which my parents think so. I was placed in foster care and from there I was adopted. Why did they find me? My father feels they wanted money, and the bone marrow story was just a lie. We only based this off of the fact my sperm donor seems fine. We don't know if he got the bone marrow from someone else or whatever, but we think the story was made up in order to harass us and get money from my parents. We aren't rich, just middle class. My mom has her business and stay-at-home mom, while my dad is an electrician. Did I ever sign up to donate bone marrow? No, I did not. I'm not comfortable with that, but I still donate blood. What about genetics? I haven't gotten tested for anything of yet. Other family? I don't care. During that time, someone reached out to me on Facebook claiming to be an aunt. I didn't reply the message. Honestly, I don't blame you for your decision, as all of your points are valid. They didn't have a right to do what they did, morally or legally. Hope you enjoy life at college. Jail most likely, because they haven't had their day in court yet. Nonetheless, great update. Have a great time in college, OP. The reality is, the moment they started harassing or pressuring you, you didn't qualify as a donor, at least here. Donors must be 100% voluntary without any pressure. I'm glad your parents protected you. I went back and read the original post, where people are saying, what about your medical history? That's the weakest reason in the world for a donation. You can get a medical profile that covers most things these days through DNA testing, if you wanted to know badly enough. Good on you for sticking to your guns. Good luck in college. Fun fact, at his age, he didn't qualify from the beginning. Sperm and egg donors were trying to con him, or his real adoptive parents, in some way. Minors donate bone marrow to relatives all the time. Siblings are frequently the best match for obvious reasons. We allow toddlers to donate even if they are too young to understand what's happening to them, as long as the ethics committee signs off on it. If you're just Googling and not involved in medicine, you probably saw that the minimum age to donate bone marrow is 18. Which is true for stranger donation and services like Be the Match. There is risk to the donor and not much benefit to the donor in stranger donation, and so a donor needs to be an adult to consent to the procedure. For siblings, there is risk, but there is a benefit to having a sibling live and significant downsides to having a sibling die, including both the direct impact to a young child of losing a sibling and the impact to a young child of having grieving parents. The death of a child has a huge impact on the entire family, which changes the calculus of the risk or benefit of donating bone marrow. That's why minor siblings are allowed to donate to each other and to their parents, but minors aren't allowed to donate to stranger. Now for the last story. Am I wrong for refusing to let my brother meet my son after what he told me at my husband's funeral? My late husband passed away from a car accident when I was 4 months pregnant. It's been difficult without him, but my family did so much to support me, and I moved in with them month after. At the funeral, my older brother asked for a minute to talk, then asked me if I really wanted to go through with my pregnancy. I was shocked when I heard this, but even more shocked when he suggested that I make the right decision, not an emotional decision, and reconsider having my son. He gave many reasons why, including the fact how single or widowed mom are considered too much of baggage for so many men to date. I lost it on him and kicked him out. That was the last time we saw each other. My son is now 3 weeks old. Whole family met him and were happy to welcome him. My parents asked if I could let my brother come meet my son even for a few hours. I refused, but they said I was making a mistake robbing my son of a future loving relationship with his uncle. They asked that I don't let my emotions dictate a decision that might have a lasting impact, but I said no. My extended family got involved and started pushing, especially after my brother started insisting, saying my husband was a dear friend of his, and what I'm doing right now would make my husband upset if he saw it. Am I being bitter and selfish? Now for the comments. Not wrong, every time he says how much of a dear friend he was. Remind him of that talk at his dear friend's funeral. Heck, remind the whole damn family of it. Repeatedly remind them all, until your child is old enough to understand what you are saying. Not wrong at all, OP. Remind him that he didn't want you to keep your child, so he should just imagine or pretend that you didn't. And that he called this child baggage. Not wrong. You don't have to allow anyone in your child's life that you don't want to. That includes family. Your brother said some pretty awful and tactless things while you were still at the funeral of the father of your child. I'm assuming he also hasn't bothered to apologize, but still feels he is entitled to have a relationship with your son, and has no problem emotionally manipulating you in order to get what he wants. Yeah, no, you're not in the wrong here. Tell your extended family that the discussion is closed and anyone who brings it up again will not be seeing your son for a long time. If and when you want your son to have a relationship with your brother, you will let him know. You don't have to allow anyone in your child's life that you don't want to. That includes family. I say this as someone who loves my nieces with all my heart, but uncles aren't actually that big a deal. Most kids could take or leave their uncles, even if those uncles are heavily involved in their lives. It's not like you're depriving your children of some quintessential childhood experience by not bringing a particular uncle around. Absolutely agreed. And that's from a guy whose uncle played an essential role in the makeup of who I am today. Uncles play the role of broadening a kid's horizons, whether that's as small as showing you hobbies that your parents don't have, or as big as introducing you to political ideologies that you otherwise might not encounter until years later. Uncles can have little impact on your growth, or big impact. And if you feel he will have a big negative impact, you have every right to hold off contact until you see clear evidence that he's examined and fixed every last awful piece of himself.